Well, the ANC has met with its alliance partners on policies and strategies to grow the economy. Fight unemployment and inequality are also just some of the matters that were tackled at that meeting. Now, the Alliance Political Council plenary session discussed the importance of a turnaround strategy for state-owned entities, among other issues as well. A report back is expected early next month. Now, to discuss this further, we're joined by political analyst Mathekga. Mr. Mathekga, thank you very much for waking up. Let's start with the SOEs. Just this morning, breaking news that SAA has cancelled all flights of that airline from South African airports, meaning that the ones coming back are probably going to be grounded as well. This is for Friday and Saturday. Important, coming out of that meeting, the statement says of the Alliance Political Council that the meeting placed emphasis on good governance and stable leadership at these SOEs and other public entities. Does that go far enough?
You see, Koli, this is a very interesting way of framing it. I mean, looking at that statement, that emphasis, I'm glad you pointed that out. For me, it almost saying that alliance partners seems to be saying that the problem with us is that we don't need austerity measures at state-owned entities. All we need is just to return to good governance. And what that could mean is that, I mean, the message that is coming out now, for anyone in the markets, for anyone who is watching what's happening, for your rating agencies that are watching this thing, when they look at SAA being grounded, it is actually a message being sent by the unions that, you know what, we are still talking about the salaries here, but we are going to bring this to a standstill. So the message that is being sent, and if you look at this document from the alliance partners, it actually says that there is no commitment to go all the way with austerity measures here. I mean, the document talks about
a commitment. You blame the unions, though, because workers are very clear. The mismanagement at these entities is not the fault of workers, it's the people who are managing them. And perhaps those people should be held accountable.
The reality, Koli, is that in the past 9 years, we have had rampant corruption in state-owned entities through the ANC. And they've accepted, no doubt. I don't think there is anyone who is willing to say that the ANC is not to blame for that. But what that has resulted in is that it has taken away the political capital from government to come up with austerity measures. The problem is that if you go to the unions, you say to them, moderate on your wage demands. But at the same time, you look at the rampage that has happened at those state-owned entities, you end up at an impasse. The reality is that you're going to have the political elites being pitted against the union bosses, but in the middle of all this is ordinary South Africans. South Africans want a consensus out of this. It will not help for the unions to maintain that government should not do anything around austerity measures. I think they should be willing to negotiate, but I do understand why the unions are so hardened, and I do understand why the political elite seems to have lost the moral capital to say to the unions, moderate, to say to the unions, allow us to do something about the state-owned entities, because the trust is gone. There is no belief that elites, political leaders are doing it for good reason. The unions don't believe that.
On state-owned entities, Mr. Mathekga, the statement then also points out that Eskom has got to appoint a CEO. In fact, if we use their line from the statement, it says a process to appoint a CEO for Eskom should be prioritized and completed. Why is this matter taking so long? I think the Public Enterprises Minister, if I'm not mistaken, is probably about a week. He's passed that deadline a week ago, if not two. Why is it taking long?
This is a serious portfolio. This is the portfolio that is at the center of major policy contentions among alliance partners. That is what you do with Eskom. How far do you go in privatizing it? How far do you go in restructuring it? So it will certainly matter a lot. I mean, if you look at the alliance partners, you look at particularly COSATU and the SACP, they've been very concerned about the ANC almost going it alone on this thing. The ANC going, unilateral, Mr. Mboweni releasing a document through Treasury on some of the measures that need to be taken. And alliance partners, COSATU and SACP, they've been very unhappy with that. And I think now what they're saying is that they want to say, maybe they want to be consulted, I don't know, but certainly they are watching what is happening at Eskom. They are watching the type of CEO who will be appointed to Eskom, because that is going to also determine the battles that are lying ahead as to what you do with Eskom.
Time is really a massive thing for us here. I've run out of it, but I've got to ask you these two quick questions.
Yeah.
The Alliance has assigned the Economic Working Group to finalize what they are saying is going to be a unifying economic strategy that will produce a high-impact industrial strategy. In the middle of a worsening unemployment crisis.
Yeah.
For me, the question there is that, is this a step in the right direction? But then also, a very interesting development happened at this meeting. On Sunday, the group has decided that they are going to develop or work on a program that is called Building Worker Unity.
Yes.
In Marikana.
Yes.
And this is where we suspect that the president will be taken to Marikana.
Yes.
For the first time since that infamous massacre. How will he be received?
Well, given the current tension between government and the unions, Marikana, AMCU, that side as well, the tensions in the mining sector. I mean, I was in Marikana less than 3 weeks ago. You know, there are some measures there, the mines and so forth, the discussions and so forth. You speak to local leaders in that area, you speak to people in that area, you can still see that the tension is still very, very palpable about what happened there. But really, what this document is doing, I mean, the only thing that I thought was substantive in this thing was that they've affirmed the National Democratic Revolution. I mean, that's what we all know. But if you look at deferring the working committee, I'm asking myself, as urgent as things are you still going to abstract as to what you need to do? Do we still have time to be able to indulge yourself around the policy discourse, or do you need to do something? The reality is that the rating agencies are breathing down our neck on this thing, and we don't have time. And now there is another working committee. There is a document that has been there, that has been produced by Treasury. I don't find a firm statement as to where does the Alliance stand in relation to the Treasury proposal on those matters. This is worryingly silent on that document. And for me, I'm worried, Tuli, that they are trying to propose another working committee. My goodness, do we have time for all this?
Ralph Mathekga, thank you very much. And it's quite interesting that you've picked up that, because this working group is going to be working on finalizing a unifying economic strategy. What does it mean about Dido Mbowene's document? It wasn't unifying enough.
This is a rejection. I mean, they rejected that document.
All right. Thank you very much. Ralph Mathekga, political analyst, joining us this morning.